You're listening to the Beige Phillip Show with Dante Nero on the Riotcast Network, riotcast.com.
What's up, Square Pimp Brigade? On this episode, we have my boy Justin Silver here. We talk about Aziz Ansari and being credible, and we talk about fear and the Me Too movement, reading signals, reading them, shutting the fuck up and paying attention.
That's true.
How about that?
That's
and
true.
Living life and the keys to happiness. All good stuff.
That's a good episode.
Yeah, I love that dude, man.
We're trying to get to 1,000 likes on Facebook, people. If we do that, we'll do some bonus shows and do some giveaways. But all you got to do is go to facebook.com/Beige Phillip. And find us there. Like us. We put some good stuff up there.
Yeah,
so have a good time.
Let's get into it.
The sexual revolution is being podcasted.
You are now tuned in to
Beige Phillip.
Let's go.
Relationships and sex is the only two things that a guy is supposed to be good at when he has no practice. And then you're told not to be womanizer, to get the practice that you need to be good at it.
Genius. True wisdom is the understanding of underlying concepts, how they relate to situations that seem irrelevant, but really are not. Superb.
As a man, you have to be strong enough to protect yourself from her emotions. You have to be strong enough to protect your relationship from her emotions. And that means to look at everything and assess it in terms of what's real and what's not real and what's just her emotional state at the time. Perfect. If you want to know how to hunt a deer, you ask the hunter. You don't ask the deer. The deer is being the deer. He doesn't know anything else but how to be. She's just being her. As a hunter, I need to study her patterns and her behaviors so that I can put this bullet in her. And by the bullet, I mean this dick.
You know the rest.
Ah, yeah. What's going on? GYBB, get your balls back. BABB, be a better bitch. WWDD, what would Dante do? The sexual revolution is being podcasted, and I am excited.
Oh, finally.
Yeah. I got mixed feelings about this, but we'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
Because I got to let him have it a little bit.
Mixed feelings?
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But this is a special guest. This is a special guest because I love this dude to death. And he's probably one of the most, we vibe a lot.
Okay.
But anyway, let me ask you this. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
You good?
I'm feeling great.
I'm ready to rock and roll. This is going to be good. It's cuffing season in the building.
Has been very good to me.
Very good to you.
Yeah.
Putting it down.
Keeping these gators down. Having a tough time
It
doing
ain't
it.
easy, but it gets easier with practice. Now, I want to get into my guest.
No Andre today, by the way.
No, Andre's
Poor guy.
sick.
He's still with us.
He had the sniffles. Andre has the
Dante
sniffles.
told him to stay away from the studio.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want his young germs.
I didn't want his young germs fucking up my old antibodies.
Yeah, because his germs are doing like tomahawk jams and
yeah, they're dunking on his fucking antibodies.
Fucking trick dunks. Anyway.
Let me get into my guest. This guy, very funny dude. One of the world-renowned dog trainers of the world.
That's right.
Was actually on NBC's CBS's Dogs in the City.
Yep.
Give it up for my dog, Justin Silver.
What's up, Dante and Harry? Great fucking acronym usage at the top of the show.
Oh, what was that?
Yeah, GYBB.
Oh, yeah.
What would
BABB,
Dante do?
Yeah, you can't stop it.
Lots of letters.
Now he's gonna think I'm mad at him because he stood us up, but that's not the problem.
That was an honest mistake,
I understand.
and I don't think you'd be mad at me for that.
No,
because we do vibe.
Here's what I was upset by.
Okay.
Justin has been on the show before.
We did have Justin on previously.
Right? Justin was on CBS, and I had Justin on the show because of the fact that we do vibe.
We do.
Sure.
But he was on CBS.
This was tough.
And he couldn't talk to me.
I know.
He really couldn't. Like, it was this.
I get it.
Which is in trumping season, it's different now. You can say whatever the fuck you want, right?
White
white guys can say whatever the fuck they want.
White
right?
guy?
Yeah.
I have a theory about how like white guys, like the whole thing. They're like the whole thing is like ethnic is taking over Hollywood and all this. It's like the seas are parting when Leo walks in the room. So please let's not make it like it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
different times back then.
It's different times.
I mean, it was a whole other thing. We had a black president. At the time, so you had to.
What? Oh my God!
We had to watch what we were saying. Now you can just talk about grabbing pussies all day long.
My comedy, everything was really, really blunted and muted as a result of wondering like where that was going to go. I was on a show that was legit rated G, and it was on such a large scale, and I was just like, I was just tense to kind of be myself,
right? Which
so
I'm going to tell you something. I think that is why it ultimately got canceled.
No, the show got canceled simply because it was a cable show
on a major network.
On a major network, and CBS doesn't have affiliates.
Well, but here's what
I was myself on that show.
Yes, yes, and no.
Well,
because you would have been bagging bitches up.
But that wouldn't have been appropriate.
That doesn't have to do with the show, though.
That had nothing to do with the show.
Yeah, but that's what makes this. That would have made, in my opinion, you being the true self that you are, and the way that you love dogs, and the fact that you're a fucking maniac.
Yeah.
Is so like you're an intriguing person on so many, and I don't think that it was about the dogs and the people,
right?
But it wasn't about you.
It was, but that's why when we tried to move it to cable and we did all these other pilots, they were a lot more the way I would do this, and I was a lot less. But I was never buttoned up on it. But it was just that the content was so squeaky clean, and it was about what I do professionally with animals, and it was like I definitely had to be careful and watch my step.
And what's funny now, I think, is the shows that make it are the shows that have this like, so it's the world that when it comes to reality based stuff, it's the world that people watch it,
right?
But it's the people why people stay.
We thought when we first initially were doing that show, we wrote it up a lot more like, yo, here's this dog expert who does all these expert things, but here's also like here's the world this person lives in. Like, you know, my boy Dave, who was my former business partner.
Oh, he's not your
No, we split, but on good terms.
We're still good.
But we had such like an interesting, weird, gritty New York dynamic, and he's like a fucking real ass dude who's you know, like dabbled in like some.
We want to not use real ass dude on this podcast.
I didn't mean like that. But you know what I'm saying? We loved how it was like the conventional dog trainer is some guy who lives in Des Moines.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He has like a beard down to his dick, and he's wearing like khaki cargo pants, and doesn't deal well with people.
He's got Franks in his pocket,
right? And I got friends like you.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? Who it's like how great, and we always thought about like how great it would be. It's like I roll up to the session with Dante there, who's like in the Dante mobile. It's like that's who I really am.
Or we go. You help me train my. At the time, I had the Cane Corso. We could have,
but that's how I wanted it.
Yeah.
But the problem, sometimes the problem is you get there and they
situation when you get a deal like that, and when that was like your first deal, right?
Like that,
yeah. And you wanna go along to get along, but you really have to take the creative control, because you know what is going to sell and they don't.
I didn't necessarily know what was going to sell in terms of, all I knew was like when the cameras are rolling, I was always honest. I was always being the way I would always be.
Yeah.
How they edited it, how they did that.
And that's the thing you can't control.
I just didn't curse.
Yeah.
I just didn't curse.
Yeah, right. But what I would say is Justin is I love Justin to death. I love you know, and so having you on it was so muted, and there's so much stuff that we could have talked. Yeah. And it was like, and even Harry was like, fuck that guy, Justin.
I mean, you
wasn't that. I don't think Harry would have said
that. No, he didn't say. But he was like,
but I did, because I know Justin.
Yeah.
So I was like,
and
that wasn't Justin. We didn't get the
full
Justin.
So take two, motherfucker.
We're here now, though.
Exactly.
And you can always right the wrongs. So let's talk bitches.
Exactly.
No, because I know Justin's like,
Take two.
But because I know Justin, and he is an interesting guy,
right?
Fascinating guy.
And when I said I wanted to have him on, Harry was like, "Oh, that's great." Well, so that was. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
I knew that, and I'm glad we talked it out.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we talked it out in front of the Beige listeners.
Yeah, why not?
The studio looks fantastic, by the way.
Brother.
And I really didn't want to unload my truth until it looked like this.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Now it's ready.
Now it's ready for you. It is ready for you. It is ready for you. So, here's the thing. Want to get into real quick. This Aziz Ansari shit. Real quick, I don't know if Aziz Ansari, Indian comedian, funny dude.
Well, I mean, he's big in America now at this point.
Yeah, right. So, but he basically took a girl out on a date, and the girl liked him, went out on a date, took her to dinner, took her back to his place, and they stripped naked, and he tried to fuck her. She said no. He said okay, and
But it was kind of beyond that.
It was beyond that.
It was beyond that.
In what way?
In that it wasn't necessarily a thing of her not wanting to have sex. It was just very awkward. Like, the moves he was making were very awkward. I think that's important to talk about that.
But the point is, no, it's not important to talk about that, because basically she added that story to the Me Too story.
Yeah.
And the point was that an awkward date doesn't make it the Me Too story.
A lot of women. That was a lot of women's opinion, by the way, on Twitter.
Yeah.
They were saying how this kind of trivializes the whole Me Too thing because they were like one woman's awkward account of an evening that was sort of like
and basically because
creepy.
He's a kind of a nerdy, kind of goofy dude anyway. It's not like he's got game anyway.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Did you expect he was going to be like fucking Sean Connery and and like what the fuck?
I kind of was surprised that it was that bad though.
Really? Why?
To that level. I mean, at some point, with this is him being famous. This is not early on. I assume this is like within reason.
Okay,
so there's some. You get some reps where I mean, what was described there?
Don't.
What was described? Sure, you do. You absolutely get. Even if it's delivered to you to some extent, that was horrendous. Is what I'm saying.
Harry, go ahead. No, go.
Here's the thing. It couldn't have been that horrendous because in her account, she's giving him oral sex, right?
Right.
And then he's doing this.
Oh, she blew. I didn't even get to that part.
I feel like you didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
So she's giving him oral sex, and she's like, he was doing this thing where he was kind of putting his fingers in my mouth, like he was, and then she was like, hey, I'm not into this. And he's like, all right, it's not fun if we're both not into this.
Right.
And then they went to the couch, and then she was blowing him again, and he did it again. So it was a lot of case of mixed signals where it was sort of like, if you were so not into it,
stop, get
you
up and
don't.
walk.
Sure, yeah.
You know, like if I was, if some girl was like blowing me again, I'd be like, hey, I can't be that far off the mark here.
Right.
So I'm certainly not defending his behavior because he does sound like a fucking nincompoop when it comes to the bedroom, first of all,
Sure.
and a bit of like a creep and an idiot. But at the same time, it's sort of like there's no running and screaming out of the room with this.
Right.
So I'm
and
like,
there's
I was
not
a little
even
confused.
a no. There's not even no.
Right.
It's I'm blowing you.
Right.
I'm blowing you, and then not only do I blow you, but we move to another location, and because even if you move to another location, you could go, hey, I'm not really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Harry does when he blows guys.
That's right.
If they break up,
That's right. I go, hey, let's try change the scenery.
Right.
Maybe reset.
Right.
Let's reset.
It doesn't hurt
first down again.
It doesn't hurt your jaw as bad on the couch.
Right. Let's just shake it up. Maybe get a couple Red Bulls going.
Yeah,
let's give it another shot.
Let's get some egg creams. I don't know where the fuck that came from.
Egg creams.
But
Are you blowing guys in the 50s? What?
Hey,
let's share a pop.
He's got a great set of pins. That guy's got a great set
Pat
of pins.
Boone record you might want to listen to back at my place.
So it's literally a situation where there was no, and this is something that I say. And like I say, dude, there are creepy stuff with guys where you have nerdy kind of creepy dudes who spent their whole life developing a level of power and money so that they could bend women's will, and now the game has changed, and you still got to have game. You know what
it's like? It's like a dude who grew up in Manhattan, so he doesn't know how to drive, and then he buys a Lamborghini. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's like now he's got to figure out how to drive this Lamborghini. Like,
and it's a
you're
stick.
wondering why it's a stick, and you're wondering why the clutch is going.
Why you're
That's a good analogy.
Why you're rolling down 79th Street on the east side backwards?
I feel like in 2019, when you redo the intro song, that might be in it.
That might be. We could definitely. That would be.
We sound bit.
Yeah, that's right. So here's but when you say reps. What you're saying is...
What do you mean by reps?
He means
getting
seen
some
Ben with so many girls and getting some...
Oh, I see what you're saying. Getting
like,
reps.
even if you suck, I mean, just the fact that you're allowed to get to a certain level, like, oh, shit, I messed that up. Because for me, that happened a lot, especially as a stand-up. And I'm nowhere near the level of...
Yeah, but here's my thing.
Yeah?
You got reps in with tutelage, and you had me to bounce off of.
Absolutely.
And so here's what happens when you gain fame and power. You fuck more, but you don't get reps. There's no reference point.
But I just thought it would be at some level. I mean, this is like this guy stepped off a spaceship with the lack of ability.
You don't listen to the fucking intro. The intro says relationships is something that you're supposed to be good at, even though you have no practice and no guidance.
But what I'm saying is, I get the fact that no guidance, but I mean, this is so bad that you're like, listen, I've never played professional football in my life, but I feel like at some point, if I got enough reps of being forced to do it, and I would get hurt. But at some point, you'd learn.
It's not the same thing as professional football.
Right.
It's you playing something that you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and people are going, "Oh, you're great at it." It's what it is. It's pretty girl syndrome. It's an attractive girl who thinks she's interesting, and every guy is telling her that she's interesting, and she's not. She's awful, and she's not funny, and she's just pretty.
I remember when I called you when the Louis thing happened.
Yes, we did talk.
We talked about this because I was like, and part of me
and
was
let me say this. I'm gonna say this to the audience. That's how cool me and Justin.
Yeah, I called.
Like he'll be like, "Yo, can we talk?" I was waiting until you. When were you gonna call me?
So we talked, and my first whole opinion was, I was like, "This is like, there's nothing wrong," and I'm not trying to glue these two guys together.
Right.
But here's what I'm saying: you're talking about two awkward situations. There's nothing wrong with someone having a fetish and be like, "Listen, I want to put my fingers in your mouth," or suggesting something that might be a little bit awkward. Yeah. But there's a couth and a way that you could go ahead and present almost anything in a way that says, like, is this open for us?
We talked about this on the show about spitting in a girl's mouth.
Right. And then a girl may be like, you know what? That's just not my thing. And it doesn't have to be like, let me grab her and... You know, it doesn't have to be so herky-jerky.
It doesn't have to be... Oh, this is not my thing. And you know what? I'm going to get my purse and leave. Also, it doesn't have to be that either.
I've presented shit to women that they were like, you know what? Like, I've been like, listen, I got this thing. Like, I'm into you. Like, there's a fucking way of doing things. There's a way of presenting things.
And mind you, Justin has got some creepy shit.
Yeah.
Like, Justin's out of his fucking... Like, Justin will ask me questions about, like, yo, let me... and he knows I don't judge him, so he knows he can absolutely fucking whatever... fucking insane shit that's in what, because Justin's brain puts things together that shouldn't be together sometimes. It's just what turns him on could be, it was like, she didn't shit in her pants, but she did have some fucking some tracks. She had some tracks, and it was just something about the fact that she was pretty and she had dirty shit tracks in it.
So things like that, yeah.
But that's like that.
It reminds me of like Patrice's old thing where he's like, I like smell, not stink. Like if a girl goes rollerblading, I'm like, oh, you smell like a bit of like you're like a female animal. You're a female animal, and I'm a male animal. Like I feel like this is.
And then he arbitrarily puts it together, and it's like, yeah, I'm in. Right?
Yeah, okay.
Which I guess I
gets you going.
I kind of do the same thing, but
I think we all do to some extent.
Yeah. Because Harry's heady into this whole fat life shit, and he's into this whole fat life.
Yeah, being dominant,
subs and doms.
Very good to me.
But on like with rope with like a little like ropes and tying up,
different things. Yeah, I'm choking.
A friend of mine, who is like was never really the most like suave dude. Not really in great shape or anything like that. Like, could be considered kind of nerdy, but like one of my best friends of all time got way into like the S&M stuff with his girl. Yeah. And he's like learned how to tie these knots, and he's into that whole. And he's gotten like that's the way he's got his game is with this shit.
Yeah. And he's so dope at it.
He's so dope. And I've had women who are like kind of into that kind of stuff, and I feel like it's not just being like, all right, well let me just. Let me cut you with this fucking nail clipper I have. There's a skill to it that it's like, I want to learn something.
And then the irony, sometimes the weird part is sometimes in that aspect of it, because you come across people on the same sites, so you skip kind of steps 1 and 2 in a weird way. You skip the
you don't, because the 1-2 is another thing.
But you got to go. Yeah, it's a different thing. But then also you have to also revert to being very overly sweet and overly sensitive. There's a weird give and take with it, because you have to, even though you both are aware of what you're doing or what your kinks are. Mm-hmm. So you kind of skip that process of figuring that out, like what you would figure out 6 weeks in.
That's why you're connected in the first place,
right?
But the first stuff is the lead up.
But the amount of trust you have to gain, you kind of have to double down in a weird way.
I understand.
You really got to trust me if you're going to let me either tie you up or spank or choke.
I've got a shitload of cotton ropes upstairs that haven't been opened.
What?
Because you know that, Harry. One day, Harry.
That's right. He called me on the phone.
I need a paddle. I got to get a paddle. And I need a leather paddle, right? And I go, you know what? Let me just go through my stuff and see.
Just whacking a chick with a crocodile shoe.
Dante's like, yeah, you know what? I think of it.
I said
your size 15 crocodile shoes.
Let me go through my chest and see what my chest, right?
Yeah.
And
I go, hey Dante, did you have a paddle? He goes, I had three.
That's great.
3 S&M paddles.
I had a leather one, I had 3 leather ones, a wood one, and a riding crop. I had like 2 riding crops, a red one, and a horsetail butt plug. It was just like insane how much stuff was in there.
It's weird when you like lay this shit. Sometimes a girl wants to see what you have.
Oh yeah.
And then when you lay all this shit out there, you're like,
it's like that scene in Taxi Driver where they meet at the hotel and he's showing him all the guns. He's like, "You want to buy a Cadillac?" I go,
"Yeah." I mean, it's just you're just like. You take a picture of it, you're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
You're like, what the fuck is wrong? What I do now, what I used to do is I used to keep the stuff beside the bed, not in plain view, so I just kind of, it's just all of a sudden now there's a vibrating butt plug in your ass and you don't know where it came from. It's like I'm like a dick magician. Like, oh, voila, boom, boom.
I thought you're more like a dentist. And like all the tools are laid out.
You don't want that. It's too much.
No, because, and then, sometimes when you lay out too much, it's a thing where
it's
like,
intimidating.
oh, what the fuck?
It can be intimidating.
And then I'll just use 1 or 2 and then kind of go in, because you want them to be comfortable. But
one time I was, so sometimes, you travel. You don't always bring the lady to your place. Sometimes you go to her place.
Kit? Yeah.
And you put it all in a duffel bag. And I was just thinking, like, as I'm packing, I'm like, if I get pulled over and they do a search and I have to look at the officer and go, no, you don't understand. They're for tying and restraining a woman so I can have sex with her. It's not what you think. It's nothing devious.
I've been cleaning and throwing stuff out. The other day I found one of the little rollers, the pin rollers.
Pinwheel.
I
don't know what do you mean?
Yeah, but it's like it's pointy, and you roll it across.
A derma roller.
Is that what they call it?
They use it for skin, conditioning. It's got like little spikes on it.
Yeah.
No, it's really?
Is that what it was originally for?
It's really used to bring it's got like tiny little needles.
Yeah.
It's used to bring. It's small, right?
Yeah.
It's used to give like if you have like some sort of skin condition.
Describing it and accurately 1,000. It's like it's got a wheel on it, right?
Yeah. And it's small, right? Yeah. It's a stainless steel.
No, you have one.
If you have like some sort of skin condition, a lot of times increasing circulation in your skin, so it's meant to cause these like micro traumas, and then it brings the circulation to the surface of the skin.
I had 3 of those.
Oh, really?
Your skin is so youthful. That's what it is.
But I bought the cotton ropes, and I have like 3 books. I got 2 books on the knots, but I just haven't had time.
You're like a Boy Scout.
Yeah. I mean, I was a Cub Scout. I made the Wolf badge, but I never made it past Wolf badge. But I mean, it's involved. It's an involved thing, and I get why it's sexy, because I love shaving a chick.
Really?
I love. You ever shave a chick?
What part?
Pussy.
No.
Oh man, you would fucking.
I wouldn't like that. I like to come in with the finished product for me.
Really?
Surprise me.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think?
That's surprising that Jason wouldn't be into that.
Because it's so meticulous, patient, and the fact that she's a little apprehensive about it.
I get that.
And then you press the lip to the side, and you.
I certainly see what you mean.
Yeah, and
wouldn't do it for me, but I'm certainly
I got
not.
You. I got you. Yeah, but you get the point.
It's like your love of motorcycles. I love that you love them.
Yeah,
I love your motorcycles. I don't want one.
Right.
Just no desire.
It's funny because Patrice and I had this talk about when the whole 2 Girls 1 Cup thing was out.
Ugh.
And so everybody wanted us. We were on Opie and Anthony, and they wanted to show it to us to see what we thought about it.
Right.
Because we, like just you and I. And what I said was, it's not my thing, but I get it that these are beautiful women who are just eating shit. Like the fact that you have this beautiful woman who's brought down to the level of where she's shitting and eating shit at the same time, and you go, oh, yeah, I get it.
Get it? Does nothing for me,
right,
but I get it.
But I get it exactly,
sure.
And
it's like Asian women, and I know this with Asian women. I have
absolutely, I have no
zero
thing about
zero.
Really?
I love you. You're beautiful. I get it. I get why every Jew in the diamond district and the stock market is jumping up and down for you. Does nothing for me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm the kind of the same way.
District.
But it's really, what I'm like. I love a fucking old Corvette with a new engine in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like an Asian, I like a Filipino chick, which is really not
a Filipino chick.
Not really an Asian. She's like
no.
the.
I mean, aren't they really?
The Mexicans of Asia.
Yeah, I was gonna say
exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So because they got fat asses in this, but I don't get that petite.
And they have the dark skin,
right? And I don't mind the light skin either. If she's got a fat ass and big titties, I'm in.
Where?
Yeah. So it just, but that that it's just what you like. The thing about the Aziz thing is, this isn't awkward. You were saying about reps, but it's not the right type. You could do 10,000 hours, and it could not be the right 10,000 hours.
I know, but for me, I feel like maybe, and this is just maybe the way I'm
you're
wired.
Being cocky too.
No. Just in general in life, like. There's nothing, even shit I didn't know anything about, like, at my job. Like, I didn't know shit about dealing with trains or whatever.
Yeah, but you immersed yourself in it. And
right, but that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's on me and the way how I deal with it. But whatever I would do, like 10,000 hours, I would figure it out. Not become a master at it. I'm not saying by any means become a master, but way beyond that level.
Yeah, but dude, this is funny because I was, I tell you, I've been fighting with my nephew again, and just the fact that he doesn't understand. He doesn't, one of the things, I have this philosophy about just achieving goals, certain goals. And I say that the brain works like a GPS. And in order for a GPS to work, you need the destination.
Sure.
And you need a detailed destination. You need the country, the code, the street, the postal code, everything.
Narrow it down.
But you also need the current location. And the current, if you try to get an Uber to take you to a certain destination, like for instance, we're in the back of the house, and so if I get an Uber from here and it says current location, it puts the Uber on the block across the block behind me,
right?
Because we're in the back of the house, and so we never get the Uber because we're in the back of the house.
Sure.
So you have to understand, you have to be aware of where you are and who you are first. And then you have to have a detailed destination. And then as your brain travels through to reach that goal, every time you do something that is counterproductive to reach that goal, your brain goes recalculating. Mm-hmm. Because it knows what you need to do to get to that destination.
Sure.
And it almost subconsciously it knows. And you're letting your emotions and these other things distract you. And so a lot with my nephew, he's just like one of the, I don't know why this comes to mind, but Volkswagen has always been a great car because they had a base engine, and then every year they improved on that engine. And this is why American cars for many years couldn't compete with Volkswagens, because every year they would scrap the engine. Okay, we're going to do a side mount engine this year. We're going to do this. And they would just start from, and they would never get the bugs out of the American cars.
Anything you do, you have new bugs.
Right, exactly.
Anytime you start a new thing, you have new bugs.
And Volkswagen had got that engine, and they just perfected it. And every year they perfected it. And so my nephew thinks like, I'll just do something else. Which he hasn't, which means he hasn't learned from the things the experiences that he's had in the previously.
Like he gives up on the thing that he was initially going to do when it doesn't work.
Or he never makes the adjustment, and he doesn't make the adjustment based on the reference.
Because a lot of people do that. They'll start something new in this way, and like, oh, this will fix everything. Now that I immerse myself 1,000% into this. This will fix everything.
It's not the immersion. It's the understanding of where you're at, as in perspective of where you're trying to go, which is exactly the whole Aziz Ansari thing. That you have guys who they're not learning from these mistakes, which is why you go, I don't. But
that's where in my head, like, when I make a mistake, I have to, you
want to figure out why you make a mistake.
And maybe he didn't or whatever, but it's just to that level, it's just astonishing.
It's also a situation where what's the mistake if people, because of your fame, people are not really telling you that it's a mistake.
Maybe that has a factor to do with it. Yeah.
The one thing, though, is like this girl, she texted him the next day, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I must have read your signals. Like, he owned it 100% then.
Right.
And then he wrote this written statement, which, the people who were shitting on him was like, what a PR type of statement. It's like, It sounded pretty
What
reasonable.
was this? I didn't read the statement. What was this?
I don't
What was
remember.
the
But
see if I can pull it up.
The gist of it was sort of like, hey, we went on this date. Here's her account of things. She mentioned to me that she felt this way. I feel apologetic. I would certainly never want to hurt. I mean, he really just sort of owned, sort of saying like,
that wasn't my intention.
That was not my intention, and I would never want to hurt you.
Which was credible in every sense of the word, because he probably didn't get it. If he had got it, he probably would have stopped.
Dude, I'm not excusing the fact that this was weird and awkward and kind of shitty, but at the same time, I'm sort of like, this was not I don't think, I mean,
let me see here.
The way she's, her recount of the situation, and I asked my sisters this, I asked a bunch of female comics.
But she says,
they were all kind of like, this doesn't sound like an assault in any way. This sounds uncomfortable and like
she
it
doesn't
sucked.
even say that it's an assault. She doesn't even. She just talks about it.
I have it here. His response, by the way, by a woman. Okay, in September of last year, I met a woman at a party. So this is September of last year, so that puts it in that frame. So he should definitely know better. But in September of last year, I met a woman at a party. We exchanged numbers. We texted back and forth, and eventually we went on a date. We went out to dinner, and afterwards we ended up engaging in sexual activity, which, by all indications, was completely consensual. The next day, I got a text from her saying that although it may have seemed okay, upon further reflection, she felt uncomfortable. It was true that everything did seem okay to me, so when I heard that it was not the case for her, I was surprised and concerned. I took her words to heart, and responded privately after taking the time to process what she had said. And let's see, the woman, so I mean that was his. In actuality, they kind of cut the statement up here on CNN. I continue to support the movement. What is happening in our culture is necessary and long overdue.
Anyway, and what's interesting is if you watch Dave Chappelle's his special, he says something. He goes when it comes to this movement and this toxic masculinity, he goes, you're going to have imperfect allies, and he says, but if you go, you grabbed a titty in '79, you're not going to have these.
Oh, he was talking about Ben Affleck, when Ben Affleck was like, I support the movement too. Yeah, you grabbed this titty in '96. All right, see you, fellas.
All right, see you guys. See. And so there's a situation where, we're at a place right now where now all of a sudden we can't be flawed as human beings. Human beings can't be flawed.
I haven't said this yet on a podcast, and I'm not going to say names or anything like this, right? But I remember we were at some sort of industry party a few months ago, and somebody who's like very feminist female was grabbing my dick outside my pants and in a joking way going, me too, me too. And at that point I was like, I can't take any of this shit seriously. Right. Number one, I kind of don't care.
Right.
Like, I was raised by 3 women. I have 2 sisters. Like, I love women to death. But at the same time, I'm like, listen, if any of those women were hurt or anybody around me were like, yo, I had an interaction with this dude and he offended me, or
I'd be ready to crack his jaw.
I'd be ready to crack his jaw, or someone was like, yo, you were fucking out of line with something, I'd be like, yo, I would own that shit 100%.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But after that, I was just kind of like, this is now, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
be honest with you.
Well, it's the thing is you devalidate the real like Gabrielle Union got raped and somebody pushed her in a bathroom, punched her in the mouth, and raped her.
That's fucking crazy.
And you're like, and what guy is going as she had that nobody's doing that. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the gray area that we're talking about.
I will say with this story, there's a lot of pushback and from women. A lot of women saying this is not a Me Too story, and it's going to devalue the movement.
Right.
Which I can appreciate that. There's been a couple of people
which is
who've
nice
come out and
because
said
that wasn't the case before. Everything Me Too story was a Me Too story, and and everybody was jumping on board.
No matter what movement you have, there's always going to be people who attach themselves who may not be 100% in the same fabric.
And that's really
the
point. The point is that we need to have these conversations.
Sure.
You have to have these conversations to know where it is. And I think this is a time when we're trying to figure out. I haven't changed the way I do things at all. Me personally, the way I approach what I say. Because it was my intention has never been in a negative way in the first place, and I've always also I think one of the things that's most important is what they accused Aziz of not getting is not understanding those social cues.
Right.
And the way you understand those social cues is by shutting the fuck up and listening.
Sure.
Paying attention. We talked about this about something as fundamental. If you're fucking missionary style, and the girl's thighs are against your quads, and you're penetrating her, and her thighs are pushing against your fucking quads, you are too deep. Like it's fun. If her breathing is sporadic, if it's not deep, and I mean, like these are fun. And
in a positive way too, not just a negative way, which is like, I'll run my finger up a girl, the back of her neck, and then you hear her kind of breathe heavy.
Right.
That means like, oh, okay,
I've
that is
never met a woman who's not yapping or communicating something ever. Not verbally or not verbally. They're always telling you what you... And I've said this as shout out to Cinnabon, one of the guys I helped out. We talked about this over and over again. If you shut the fuck up, she will tell you everything you need to know.
You know how you always say, like, you always want me to do something where it's like I'm comparing dog training to training women?
But it's the same thing.
Well, listen, here's what I'm saying. I'm going to say this in the most... Because I think about it in the most positive way. So I'm going to say this in the most positive way. The thing that makes me so good at what I do with animals is like, it's not anything that I learned in a book or anything I could sort of say. There's like I get quiet, and when I work with animals, there's like a sense and a feel. And I try to fall into this almost like, I don't want to say like a meditated state because it's so quick.
But it is meditated.
It's a clear state where I'm sort of just reading who they are.
It's almost like a sixth sense.
Sort of. Yeah. And I feel like the same thing with friendships with men or women.
Absolutely.
People's skills is sort of being like, wait a second, let me just sort of like feel this energy out a little bit. And when you're having intercourse with someone or you're intimate, like my relationship with animals, right? And all my friends will joke like, Justin fucks dogs. Like, shut up, idiot. My relationship with animals is this intimate sort of thing that I have with them.
Which I don't have a problem with
which is like a special thing. And it's like, I think I'm good with people, and I think I'm good with women. I think one of the reasons I'm good with women is because I kind of feel like I get them. I get them.
Exactly. Well, you know what's interesting? It's our friendship is based on that.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
We have a mutual kind of man crush. I love Dante.
Yeah, I love Justin. And it's like you don't have to explain it all.
No.
You go, this Louis thing, I'm glad you called. We already know where this is going.
Sure.
Right?
We're cocksmith, Dante.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But you got to pay attention. And the first part of paying attention is shutting the fuck up. Stop trying to fill every second with your words, because when you're doing that, what you're communicating is that I don't have value. And so I'm trying to sell you on me. I'm trying to sell my wares. And what she recognizes that you don't believe what you're selling. That's why you're selling so hard. When you go into there's a Ferrari dealership on 40, I think it's on 47
10th and 11th, 10th Ave.
No, the one on not the Lambo spot, the Ferrari spot.
I'm never buying either one.
Right. It's right on Park Avenue. There's a Ferrari spot, and it's every once in a while.
I know what you're talking about.
Every once in a while, you walking in, somebody in there. It's not packed, but it's like, yeah, it's the Ferrari. It's This is 700 horsepower. This is this model, and here's the other one. And you go,
honestly, if you were selling Ferraris, you really wouldn't need to know more technical than just what you just did. Blah, 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 blah. People know what they're coming in for.
They know what they're coming in for.
Right.
And I don't have to say, hey, listen, I gave you a great deal on it. I got a yellow one in the back. It's got pink seats, but we're going to figure it out. You're selling something that has a quality and has a prestige of it, and you got to sell yourself in the same way. You got to believe that what you're bringing to the table has some value, and when you do that, she goes, because if you're selling it in this frantic way, what happens is she goes, you don't really believe in this. You don't really think that this is a good product. Like you're
selling it in a frantic way.
Like you're selling it too hard. You're saying, yeah. So I was
talk about overcompensating for a lack of value,
of confidence and value.
Let me tell you how fast this Toyota is.
Okay.
Like I don't have to tell you how fast the Ferrari is.
Right.
You know that.
We know how fast it is. No. It's a great car. That's what you say. This is a great car. Yeah, I was really 380,000. Listen, all right, wrap it up. Wrap it up. And so when you really have a sense of the fact that you have a sense that you have this value, you speak in a way that me and Just, can we talk about the strip club?
I know what you're talking
about. So Sherrod, which is the fucking the last of the
real
rock
party
star,
guys.
Just insane. And I don't hang out with him.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know either.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know how he's never tired. It's never an end. It never ends.
There's some people who are wired like that. Sinatra was like that.
Dude,
I was with Attell, and Attell was like, he was like, that's like the last of the true party guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you know what it is? He's like, a lot of guys like that, what ends up happening is they end up becoming like real fucked up addicts.
Yeah.
Right.
He's functional and does his thing.
Yeah, I've never known him to have an addiction.
Precarious as possible.
Shows up when he's supposed to, ready to work, just fucking on. He's a fucking amazing dude. Amazing.
Some people are wired like that. They don't need to sleep somehow. That's
dude. So we're at the stand hanging out summertime, having a ball. Fucking, and me and Justin don't hang out. We talk, but we don't really hang out a lot. But when it's always love. And Sherrod was like, we ain't going home, Dante. What are you doing? Well, so Sherrod goes, I got this guy.
Come on, homie.
We're going home. Let's go. Yeah, that's what I hate about you, Dante. Right? So we all jump in my Jeep, right?
Yeah.
Me, him.
And a bunch of girls my friend Whitney.
And your friend Whitney. We go to this fucking strip club. And naturally... Fucking Sherrod knows the owner.
It's like his Cheers.
It's just like
Sherrod's here.
It wasn't the busiest night.
No, it was kind of off, and we get in there, and the guy kind of does this thing like he's an Arab prince, almost like clap, my people, and all these girls just run over to us, right? And and it's like, and the place is empty, and it's like they're kind of cool, kind of like And fucking, I'm sitting down and, nobody's really fucking with me kind of, and they're fucking with the girls. And then Justin gets this kind of, this chick, just definitely, you could tell she was going to go for, she's like a broken chick, hot, but...
She was pretty.
Hot, but you could tell kind of broken.
Why don't you just say a stripper? Why don't you just say a stripper?
But you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, of course I know what you mean. We're in a strip club. The people that work there. I know what you mean.
So it's funny because I'm watching him rock, and I'm watching, and Sherrod is like, more shots, more, and we just right. So I'm watching. It's the contrast of things are different, even the way our style is in a way.
Sure.
So,
you have a big guy advantage that I don't have.
Yeah, but you got the fucking hot douchey guy,
which I'm not. But
you do wear the uniform.
I do. 100%.
Like, I bet you I
play that guy on TV. 100%.
I bet you have a lot of conversations that you prefer not to have. Knowing you.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
A lot of conversations start how much you bench.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're not that dude, but you do wear that uniform.
100%. 100%.
But you do have that advantage.
So funny.
But I'm saying there's different advantages.
Yeah.
Different. We have to work things differently.
Right, because chicks don't just run up to me.
No.
They're very apprehensive.
Unless they're really looking for that.
If they're trying to get fucked in a dumpster, I'm the first guy they're trying to like
step over Justin's back, walk right over him, and then vice versa. Though he might get the ones
which I have to show dimension to get them comfortable, or if I show dimension, it gets them comfortable. And Justin is just loud. Him and this chick is loud, and she's instantly into him. Instantly, she's just, and I'm like, oh, he's got this, right?
Yeah.
And I what's
I'm listening.
And then
I'm remembering the story.
And then I get it. The chick kind of she's like, oh, like she's. I can tell she's trying to play me. You know what I mean? She's kind of like, oh, she's gonna hit me for tips and whatever.
Right.
And she sits, like she straddles me. And she sits on, and I take my thumb and I just start rubbing her back. Like I'm just working the
for
muscle.
An hour.
Like I'm just working the muscles in her back, and she just like she's grinding and stuff. All of a sudden, she's not grinding. She's just sitting, and her eyes are rolling back in her head. And Justin's watching it. The chick that was his friend was there, and she's just like, she's literally fucking wet my fucking jeans. Yeah. The pussy got wet and just wet my jeans, and I'm working this, just working, and I don't think I tipped her. I might have tipped her just out of thing, but never
like you were buying the experience.
Yeah.
Like you were part of you. Was like it was sort of like, hey, you are at work here, and you should be running around to the other 9 people here.
Go make your money.
So let me show you that I appreciate and respect that element.
Right.
But it certainly wasn't like, here's more money to stay
to
here.
Keep. Yeah.
It definitely wasn't that.
But it was it's an interesting dynamic. You know, when you watch, because we don't get to watch each other. You're so into being yourself that you don't get to see other, like, it was interesting to see how you do it.
Oh.
And it was just interesting because he's playful, and this is something I talk about, just playful,
Yeah.
like meaningless banter back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really care, but it's fun, but it's not. And she was just like,
She slept over.
Yeah.
She was very nice.
Yeah, very, very nice.
It was her time of the month, so we didn't, that didn't happen, but,
Yeah, but it could have happened, and if
sweet.
If he wanted to, he could have.
She was nice.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Good deal. But it's interesting to watch how those principles, the principles that I talk about, go into play in a different context. Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
Yeah,
What were you like as a kid as far as relationships and stuff? Like, what were you?
What's a kid?
Meaning like high school, great. When you first start, wanting to be with women, or
when did it start where you started finding women attractive? Was that immediate or?
Finding women attractive?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, the second the double digits hit, I think, right? 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
Like, you have those, like, little sleepovers and stuff with, like, female friends, and it's like you get those little tingly feeling. Like,
right.
It starts like that. You know what I mean? But I was a kind of a degenerate kid where I was sent to boarding schools for kids with issues and things like that. From like 15... From like 14 to 17, I was like kind of locked up in this fucked up school.
What did you do to get that?
I had no father in my life. Like, my dad just passed away, and God rest his soul. I love my dad, but he was never an authority figure in my life. So I was raised by women, and they could not control me. They were not going to, and I think that my way, I could just sort of charm my way to getting by with stuff, and I didn't.
Which is what teaches you how to charm your way in every situation.
It kind of gets me in trouble now, honestly. Like, I'm learning how to sort of reparent myself, like sort of discipline myself now.
In what way?
Well, I'll get to it, but to answer your question,
maybe just just because I can do this doesn't mean I should.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Like hard work and showing up and like putting your hands to the stone,
done.
like doing what needs to get done, as opposed to being like, let me try to manipulate my way through things, are not the way that I try to do things now. But what I'm saying is so my high school, the first time I ever really like hooked up with a girlfriend was in this school, and I got like punished for it, like pretty severely, because you were not allowed to really do things like that. So it was like my first starts.
How old were you?
14, 15, like they were really, really awkward. They were really awkward, and they were like shaming, and they were like, and none of those things actually like scarred me at all. Like I would know. I had shit that did scar me. These things did not.
Yeah.
But it was like then when I was like, I got out of that school and I was like 18, 19, then I started realizing, you know, and I was always a chubby kid growing up, so I was never, you know, I was handsome, but, you know, I was never like, you know, an athlete or in good shape. I've never been over 5'7",
right?
You know, and I was definitely shorter then, and I was, you know, I didn't have like I wasn't that fit. But I was into art, and I guess because I was raised by women, like I just sort of always, women have always been easy for me to talk to.
Right, because it's what you did.
It was they're still just so easy for me to talk to.
Yeah,
and I think that like, you know, in high school, like after that, like
that explains so much because I have nothing but brothers, and the only woman in my life was my mom, who's a fucking lunatic.
Wild for the night.
So that is why I had a tremendous problem talking to women. If only I talked the way my mom did. Anyway, sorry.
No,
this just showed me a little something about myself.
So then in like college days and all that, I remember like this is when I started getting like an understanding that women are attracted to me and I'm attracted to them, and they're sort of like, and I had friends that were like, you know, you always have that friend who's the dude who's like well beyond his years and smooth when he's really young.
Because it happens accidentally.
You have the one dude who's like, he just has a mustache at like 13. You know what I'm saying?
Sure,
and you're like, why is like Derek like walks around with like his shirt open, he's like dating a 26-year-old. Like, how does this happen? You always have that dude. So I was like, watch that guy, and I was like, oh, I kind of see. For me, it was like a little bit more awkward.
Right.
But then I was just like, as I got when I hit like 19. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I was sick of being like a chubby kid, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going to get myself in shape. Mm-hmm. I don't think because my body changed so much. I think it was more of like this, like, okay, now I'm taking on I'm taking on myself the role of like changing myself for the better on my terms. Right. And I think that raised my self-esteem and my self-confidence.
Wow.
And as a result of that, I felt like a lot more powerful with women. And not powerful in terms of like I can stick my fingers down their throat like Aziz.
Right.
I meant more powerful in terms of like I felt like myself. I felt
worth something.
I felt worth something.
Well, because it is something you value as a man, like the ability to be with women and talk to women. That's something as a heterosexual guy that means something to you. And when you can't do that, you feel like you're lacking.
That's built into the genes. Our need to the fact that we can do that you can accomplish that and have a woman have sex with you.
It's a desire that you want, and so it's a skill that you feel less than if you can't do it.
I always love like that first interaction with someone. You know, when you first interact with a woman, and you're kind of like when the switch flips.
Or when you find out that she's attracted to you, or when the process of flipping the switch?
Both.
Okay.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
Like sometimes there's the ones where you sit down and you're like, hi, and they're like, hi. You're like, this is in the bag from the get-go. And then there's times
Never
where
happened.
and then there's times chicks are going to be attracted to you, Harry. This
no,
looking dude, you got great hair.
He does have fucking amazing
great hair. But and then there's times where you're kind of like, you know, you could tell they're not that into you, or they take you, like for me it's like a lot of times it's like that classy girl who's looking at me, and I've always got like a tight t-shirt on, and she's like, oh, this douchebag, or
the uniform.
Sure. And then
flip it,
and I'm like, don't worry, like let me just sort of like massage this a little bit,
some fancy words that I know, because I know fancy words.
I know fancy words, and that because
I know Justin knows fancy words.
That's right. Was that a Pinot?
When that flips, I always feel like that's like a nice. I'm like, oh, this is so fun.
Yeah.
That's a good.
They love that too.
Of course,
they love that.
This is the problem with what's going on right now.
Yeah,
is you're fucking up the game. Like I get. When you start to go so extreme that you can't ask me if I want a drink, you can't say hello to me. When they start talking about the microaggressions of that, somehow I'm supposed to know that you're offended because I said hello.
I think part of that is, listen, you go so many years doing abusive shit, or people feeling like justice isn't served for them.
Sure.
That what's going to happen is when it's their time to speak up and people are actually listening, you're going to throw all of it out there at once. It's almost like being in a fight with your girlfriend or something, where like you really finally everything gets out in the open, and you fucking cheated on me, and also you leave your sneakers in the hallway.
Then again, you lose your credibility.
You do.
And this is the
part
thing.
Of it.
Credibility. It's funny. Like I was. You know, you and I, we were just talking about my nephew and all kinds of stuff, and I was trying to explain to him that your credibility, your word, you have to exercise that in every aspect of your life, not just when you think it matters. You need to be somebody who respects himself, understands what his value is. And if you think that a chick is fucking you and she's doing you a favor, there's no way to hide that.
No.
That will come out. The fact that you don't think that you're worthy of this interaction. And that's what happens with Louis and the jerk off stuff and all of these. It's guys, you really don't think, you thought that your power and your fame made you worth it, and then it doesn't. Listen, still doesn't.
I think it speaks so much more when someone can connect with a woman, and I don't want to say pull her because it sounds manipulative, and I don't mean it that way.
But it is.
I don't mean it that way. I'm saying when you can be like, yo, listen, like you're the one I'm after, right? And I don't have it's sort of like, remember in the Never-Ending Story, when Atreyu has to walk through those things and they judge you on your character.
Yes, yeah.
And some of the guys show up in the horses with the armor, they're the peacocks show up, and the Oracle, the Oracle sees
right now. If I was a bro talking at a bar, I'd be like, this dude's misleading. I thought we were going to talk about powerlifting, and now we're talking about Never-Ending Story.
It blows him up. It's like, Atreyu just walks up there and he's got he's just home. He's like, this is who I am, and he walks right through.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's something to be said about not having, $1 million to do that with. And it's like, that's
because the $1 million don't really matter. Because what she's chasing is the $1 million.
Right.
She's not chasing you. This is just the lure.
Right.
You still gotta. This is fly fishing, dude. You still gotta You gotta make that lure jump. You gotta know. You gotta understand the geography. You gotta understand the temperature of the water. You gotta understand the animal that you're hunting. All of those things are important. And then on top of that is the sincerity by which that you act in a way that is sincere and good.
You know why this podcast is so good?
What's that?
Can I tell you? Because if you were listening to a minute and a half ago, and we were leading into this, right? Someone would be like, "What the fuck, hunting? Excuse me?" And then when you talk about it and you keep going, you talk about sincerity, being honest, accountability, all these things. The way you term it is the way you term it. You're a big black dude in Brooklyn who talks how he talks. He's not going to apologize for it, nor should you.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like you love women, you're a good dude, and you're talking about dudes being authentic and being who they are.
I love being a good dude.
Yeah, you are a good dude.
And I love being around people that are good people.
Yeah.
And I genuinely want to help people.
What I was going to say earlier where it gets me in trouble, this is something that I've had to monitor a lot lately, and I've apologized to a few women who are friends of mine now. This is something I've gotten in trouble with, is I try not to shit where I eat, and so I've never really hooked up much in the comedy scene, and I'm so conscious of that kind of thing.
Right.
But I'm very flirtatious with women just kind of naturally.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh shit, this girl's super attractive. She's got all these great qualities. I'm kind of into her. So I start going along that course. And then what happens is a few weeks in, I pump the brakes. But I'm pumping the brakes because I'm thinking I'm like, think about this, Justin. This is you're doing this in an environment where you work, you have professional relationships, and then these women are like, you're a real asshole because you led me on. And then I'm like, you know what? And then I have to explain. I have to be like, wait a second. Let me first of all, let me clarify this. And I've had it, and I've said this a few times in the past year, as opposed to even recently. I said, I find you very attractive. So I find you attractive. I think you're awesome. I want to get to know you. And, of course, my desire is to sort of be like, hey, let me see where we can go with this. However, if you and I were not in this close-knit scene where we're going to see each other outside of dates that we set up that are just based on our romantic interests, I would have gone ahead and gone. I would have done this already.
Yeah.
You would have spent the night. I would have taken you on more. We would have made out already.
I probably have done this in my head already 100 times.
But because I know that there are other interactions we're going to have on a professional level, and those are ones that are going to, there's going to be overlap that might be uncomfortable, I pump the brakes, and then I have to apologize. And then when I do, they're like, that makes sense, try not to do that again.
And this is the thing.
And so now I'm trying to be a lot more.
Step before that.
I'm trying to be a lot more conservative in the way I talk to women, the way
Sure.
I'm trying to, shake hands, step it back. I'm trying to not be
but
so. But it's not who I am.
Right. But the simple recognition of that is a testimony to reading the room and paying attention. So even in the context of something where you're just being yourself, you're still trying to be a better self.
Yeah.
That clearly is working for you. Who you are works for you anyway. But that's not the point. The point is that you don't want to be you don't want to walk around and hurt people.
I don't want to be a dick.
You want to be honest, and honesty is important, but not honest at the extent of hurting somebody's feelings.
Right.
Like I would never tell. Had a chick who in the comedy community was hitting on me, and she's just not my type. And I would never. And so my excuse was, I just don't shit where I eat. When I absolutely would shit where I eat. Just not with you.
Right.
And I don't need to tell you that I just don't find you attractive.
Right. Yeah, that's hurtful.
Why do that?
They have that AA expression. They say, you're honest except when to do so would injure yourself or others.
Right.
It's
there's no point in that. And what's interesting is, this is a funny thing because, the inception of the show comes from me and Patrice and Black Phillip's thing.
Sure.
And this is something that I realized about, God bless the dead, I love Patrice to death. Wouldn't be the comic guy I am today if it wasn't for him. And I say that clearly, but we used to revel in the fact that Patrice would go on stage and walk a third of the audience. We just thought it was so ballsy and so. Yeah. But now that I'm in a position where I headline, I realize that he wore the ability to shit on people as that was his secret power, and he abused it in a lot of times. And it took me time to see that. Right. I had to be in a position where, and I'm all about somebody that's heckling who needs to be put in their place, but sometimes dude, I remember him ripping this chick, like, and it was called for because she was just such a cunt. Like, she was super cunt. And he was like, you're an awful person. He goes, and none of your friends like you. And none of you, and your man is too weak to tell you that you're an awful person. And he goes, and he goes to her. There was like two other couples that was with them. And he goes, and this is your fault because you're not good friends. And you won't tell her that she's awful, which doesn't give her the opportunity to be a better person anyway, because she's under the impression that she's a great person.
Right.
And
was she really hot?
She was all right, but it was like she had this dude's nuts in a ringer.
Yeah.
And he was like, and then he goes to the guy. He goes, this is your fault.
You're weak.
He goes, your bitch is out of pocket, and you won't open your mouth.
Buddy, masculine, feminine energy, and we talk about this all the time. Sure. It's like, I'm all for women being powerful women, but not at the expense of them being nurturers and feminine, and that's like a,
Yeah. I mean, to reduce yourself to that, you're saying. I'm
saying a lot of men are like, the chick in the relationship.
Sure.
You know that.
Sure, and they're not happy with that.
No, of course
I've
not.
never, and this is what's interesting about that.
Neither
and
party's happy with that.
They're not happy with that.
No.
If you act like a bitch, you will get fucked. And it's not, and over and over again, I've had guys, well, women are blah, blah, blah. No, look, deers are being deer. They're being, as much as we try not to be our nature, we are our nature. There is a nature to this. There is something to it. And when you circumvent 200,000 years of evolution, you're going to have a problem. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a problem. And that's what's happening now. Even this whole idea of these powerful men gaining money and power to bend people's will comes from a situation. It comes from, first, the disrespect of taking control of and not letting women actualize their full potential in the first place, and then and then the retraction is a woman withholding sex and making you jump through hoops and so on and so forth, which was the snapback. And then it's men becoming powerful to bend their will, and then it's women now, this whole Me Too thing where now you're fucking up the game when this whole thing really should be in that gray area in the first place.
Right. So everything's a reaction, everything else.
Right.
It's very defensive.
Yes, its pendulum is swinging
Back
to extreme.
and forth.
And where it really needs to be the pendulum needs to sit still in the low part of the arc. That's where it needs to be. We need to respect women and their will, but we need to learn how to read those cues. And if you don't read those cues, pay the fuck attention. Don't think that you're just your money and your power is because it's not. It ain't. She's gonna fuck your boy. She'll take your money and fuck your boy. That happens all the time. And here's the other side of that. If you're a woman and you're listening and you think you're going to cut the balls off of a dude, he will just find another bitch to pin him back on. That's what he does. My older sister, my nephew.
Lovely woman. No, is that?
Yeah, she's a bit cunt.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
But even that, even who she is a result of my father not being the father that he should have been.
And explaining to her why. Not
calling her on her bull, just giving her this princess syndrome that makes her think that she could just do anything off with your head, let them eat cake type shit, you know?
Did you grow up with a strong father figure?
Yeah, my father
right?
My father was a huge... Like, he was dynamically... Well, first he was 5'2", which is a small dude.
Shut up.
Yeah, my pops. I'll show you pictures of him.
Your dad was 5'2"?
5'2".
And your mom was... I remember your mom
was... She was like 5'4", 5'3",
well,
5'4".
What were you adopted?
No, just... my uncle was tall, but there's a lot of steroids in the chicken, Justin. So that I think that's what happened, is steroids in the chicken. So, I don't know how I ended up 6'1", but whatever.
But you're not a small 6'1".
No,
you're the wide...
I got big hips, big ankles, big wrists, big hands.
You're one of the biggest people I know.
That's it. So but he was such a dynamic, charismatic man. I remember going to my college orientation, and he was the only dad that went. And there was 12 women there, and he was dancing with them, and he had them giggling, and then I was doing my thing I was fucking everybody at the orientation, So it's like it was just
It's a hell of a way to start a semester.
Yeah. It's the way to get into college. The first year of college, right? You bang out
23 skidoo. Let's do this. Team, go.
I did it. I mean, my orientation was a weekend, about 4 days. I might have nailed 3 chicks in 4 days, 3 for 4. That's pretty good. At 18, it's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I also jumped out of a second floor window and fractured my ankle.
Jesus.
I know this story.
Somebody dared me. Like, I was at a point, I had gotten to this point where we talked about this, how I was, my father was super overprotective, and he made me very insecure about everything. And
like nervous?
I was afraid of everything.
Like, don't go outside?
Yeah.
That really?
Yeah. He was, because I was his only son, and he didn't want nothing to happen to me. And so he did everything to make sure that I was afraid of everything. And I shouldn't act like this was I was tortured as a child, because it was probably at 12 or 13, I was like, I'm tired of being afraid.
Right.
And I go, I say this all the time, that fear happens between when the opportunity is presented to you and when you actually access the opportunity. And so the longer...
Wait, say that again?
So when fear happens when the opportunity is presented to you.
The stimulus, right.
And how long it takes you to access
Meaning the worst part is the
anticipation.
Got it. Not necessarily
how long it
takes
you to... And so the longer you take to access the opportunity, the fear builds from the time and the longer you wait until you're paralyzed with fear.
It's like when you're standing on a diving board, the longer you stand there,
the harder
until
it
you
is.
Just jump,
Which is interesting because it's. I was a big science dude, and do you remember inertia? The term inertia.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Things that the rest tend to stay at rest, things in motion tend to stay in
Sure.
motion, and the longer that things sit still, the deeper the harder it is to move.
Of course.
And whereas when you're moving things, when things are fluid, it moves easier. And so the same thing happens. So with fear acts under the same principles of inertia, which is this whole thing that I connect. I've always connected all of these things. Oh, this is just like that, and this is like, and so the fear would present itself to me, and I would access it immediately, so that the fear would never build.
Got it.
So by the time I was 13, I understood that at 13, and I started practicing that. And by the time I was 18, 5 years of practicing it, I was a maniac.
Yeah.
So if you dared me to jump out a third floor window, and I thought I would do it.
There's a biological component to that stuff in
Sure.
your brain.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like when they talk about the synaptic connections and
Sure,
the neodendrites, how like nerve cells that wire together, fire together. When you sit there and you're in fear, what happens is your brain, that pattern,
Right.
that path starts to get grooved to the point where it's hard to overcome
hard,
it and
right.
get out of it.
Absolutely.
And there's probably that physical movement that you're talking about. There's also it's
connected.
it's connected in your brain like
Sure,
that.
sure.
I think.
Well, I say this all the time, that you try to. Sometimes you have depression, and sometimes, right? Do you get depression sometimes?
I was just gonna, when you're done with this, I was gonna say how I get depression, anxiety, but how I'm right now is a time where I'm facing and overcoming more fear than I ever have in my life.
Wow.
But I'll talk about that in a second when you're done making this point.
Well, this is the point.
You see how we're like a beautiful marriage back?
Yeah.
Like the conversation, we let each
If
other
I was a
talk.
gay dude, I would date. We would be such a.
This is how
hot
he does
couple.
it.
Yeah,
I would be the twink in this relationship, but whatever. Go ahead. You were gonna say.
So, the synapses is between physical action and activity is directly connected to those chemical precursors as well as those emotional precursors, because it's all chemical and activity. And so the question, I've always questioned, what is first? Is it the chemical synapses is connected to that emotion that connects to physical, or is it the other way? And what I've come to believe is that it doesn't matter.
No.
They're interchanging. So when you're depressed, here's something I would love you to try. Next time you're depressed, stand in front of a mirror and then laugh.
Right.
Giggle and laugh.
Right.
And what I found, and this has happened to me, where I would be laughing, and it just feels stupid.
If you change your biology, you will change the emotions.
You change
that cause,
the physical, because
Sure.
there's
that's all Tony Robbins talks about.
and
that
we
stuff.
what's interesting about that is we practice that consistently. We talk about when we're not reading the cues, when men are not reading these cues, or like Aziz is not reading the cues. It's just he does know how to read cues. He's a comic. He does this constantly. He knows what to say and he's a successful comic. There's no way he doesn't have this skill set. The problem is when it comes to women, he feels as though, like I say, true wisdom is the understanding of underlying concepts, how they relate to situations that seem irrelevant but really are not. So what we know in the root, at the basic fundamental can be applied to everything else.
Sure.
And so if he's a successful comic and he makes people laugh, he understands how to read a room. And all of a sudden, because it's women, then all of a sudden it's foreign to him. He takes everything that he knows about comedy and doesn't apply it to women. And so he's sticking fingers in a girl's mouth who clearly is going.
So it seems based on the situation, based on what we know from this story.
Exactly. So standing in front of a mirror laughing changes the physical, because if we sit out on my step in front of the house and we watch people, like you'll watch a woman rushing down my block with her keys in her hand, and you'll go, oh, she's got a man, or she's got kids, she's got to get home, she's got to cook dinner, and she's in a rush because she's got and then you'll see another woman who has no man, no kids, and she's just aimlessly walking with her shoulders are rolled over and her shoulders are down, and she doesn't, and you know who this person is from small bits of information. You can build the whole backstory on who this person is. And so depression, if you stand in front of the mirror and you just laugh, the physical synopsis is change the chemical synopsis, and it changes how you feel.
Your physiology changes your biology.
Sure.
Because it fires endorphins and things.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so connected that it happens even as stupid as you feel standing in front of the mirror giggling.
Sure.
Well, because the muscles are connected in a certain pattern with all your synapses and.
But you were going to say anxiety, depression.
This is like, after I came back from LA, like I felt so like after I had that show and I was like working on all these pilots and, like just hitting like a point in my life just in terms of age where I thought things were going to be further along than they were. I just really felt like the helicopter fucking landed and like I was like, I don't even know if there's enough gas in this thing to take it off again.
Right.
And I came back to New York and felt really defeated about that stuff, and it had an effect on how I looked at going and dating because I was like, I don't feel like like my mojo was gone.
Right.
And it wasn't so much, and I could look at all these things. I was like, but you still have your apartment, you still have your good looks, you have your physical. I was like, none of those things were really helping me feel better because I was just really trying to. I was talking at these other voices that were a lot stronger.
Right.
And a result, like lately, I started doing these things where I started like doing a lot of positive stuff for myself. Where I was like, you know what? I don't give a like. It's been really hard coming back to comedy, especially after a long layoff.
And you know what? I want to say something. I really wish you had talked to me. Because
a little bit.
But I mean, I wish you had really talked to me about because
I don't know.
You were fighting coming back to comedy.
I didn't know if I had it was so chaotic in my mind. I don't even know if I could have sorted out the conversation.
And do you know that I always kind of made myself available? I don't know if you noticed that. You might have been so into your head.
I was in my head,
but I was so making myself available to you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I mean, if you think about it, anytime you saw
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I always felt the love. I appreciate that. I didn't know if I could. I was struggling with so much. It was like I was so internalized and so in my head, which I tend to get. Like I'm a thinker.
Yeah.
But I was just sort of like, you know what? Like it's difficult watching other people who have sort of their success is now taken off and all these sort of things. And I was like, you know what, man? Fuck, like this conversation that I have in my head, like negative thoughts, I'm like, they are going to be there just like a radio station that is turned on and it's got like negative news radio. And I was like, despite
We're
all
talking about Fox.
Yeah. I was like, despite all that, I'm just going to show up every day, do the things that are in front of me, start the podcast that I started, get on the shows that I'm going to get on, build these things, and as a result, like like when it's raining and shit outside, I don't feel good. Like get my ass up, get to the fucking gym, work out hard, and it's like I've just started building this momentum where I'm like, you know what? It doesn't fucking matter if you feel depressed or anxious. Like push those. Like it's not even that I push them to the side. I'm like, that's great. But I'm on this other. I'm looking at this other street now, and I just feel this sort of sense of empowerment, and that I'm like overcoming these. But like esteem, and happiness. Like at the end of the day, I started writing down like 3 things that went well, and I'm like, all these things start to accumulate, and I don't know if it's that they were not there before. I'm just trying to pay attention to that shit more.
Reading
man.
the room, which is again
paying
the same
attention
thing.
more.
Reading the room, and what was really even interesting about that is that the analogy you used about the helicopter landing, and you're like, oh, here it is, this is it. When you don't realize that you should have enjoyed the ride while you were in the air.
Yeah.
And you should have enjoyed the landing and everything. And so what happens is life is not about the destination as much as it is about the process.
Yeah.
We if it's just about the day that we die and that we can look back and go, yeah, I accomplished things, you have missed your whole life. You've been there, you've acted on it, you've created these pictures, and you've never even looked at the album to see the snapshots of enjoyment, and you've never stopped to smell the roses and enjoy what you've achieved. And think about the friends and the friends that our friendship and the things that you've accomplished, and how many times you've stood in front of crowds and brought people joy.
Great thing, man.
It's such an amazing thing.
Yeah, it's a lucky thing to get to do. But I've been feeling like I've been happier, especially even in the past few months, and I hate the winter time. Yeah. I've been happier like now than I've been in so many years. Even when I went to LA and I got this house and I had this girl and I thought these were the things I wanted, but the fact that I'm like I don't get like the fact that I'm like clawing and working hard for the things that I dream about, like my dreams. Like I just feel like I'm I'm in the pursuit of the things that I love to do. Like,
and if
that
you
makes
die
me feel
doing
good,
it,
dude.
then you're dead.
That-
Nobody.
yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
You're dead. It's nothing to give a fuck about. And it's this is something that I say, and is happiness is a decision away. We make a decision to be happy. And I'm not saying that we're not affected by adverse conditions and things and people, places and things, but we make a decision to be happy. And when we make that decision and we make it ours and we work towards it, there's a feeling of satisfaction, of fulfillment, and we start to actually experience the happiness that we wanted. And it happens so frequently and so easily that you can't believe how fucking that. Like, for years we've always heard people say, if you want something, you work for it, and you can be and have anything you want to have. And I always said that is the greatest and the scariest thing that I've ever heard said and ever heard anybody say, because when you don't have it, it's your fault. And if you want it, you got to work for it. And you have to stay diligent and work for it. And when you do that, what is life if not that? If not that, the pursuit of that, getting up and just being fucking dope. I'm dope and I do dope shit. Yeah. And it's like,
So many people don't have, like, I talk to my friends, and so many people, like, outside of comedy, they don't have a sense of purpose or a sense of meaning of things that they love to do, and they're like, and it could be anything. Listen, there's people I know who just, like, what they want to be as parents. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's not like
which is fine,
right? It's not like that not everybody has to have a pursuit in the arts.
Yeah,
but so many people don't wake up with, like, this sense of purpose every day. Yeah, that they're working towards something.
I was watching something on I forget the channel I was watching, but it's like Off the Grid. So it's like there's like 5 dudes. One is an old dude who he spent his day building a canoe out of a fallen tree, and he has another dude. He has a daughter, and he hunts. He's a hunter gatherer. And the girl.
Wait, is it in Alaska?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, my favorite, Life Below Zero.
No, not that one. It's the other one we have. They're all over the place, but one's like a hunter and gatherer.
I got it.
One other one is a trapper, and they just kind of, this dude one dude, he creates this fish trap that just spins
fish wheel,
and he has like he's like 600 salmon. Right. And then he hangs them up and dries
them. Fish dry. Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Of course I know. I watch all this shit.
And you're like...
I can tell you how to do it. I watch the shit so much.
And it's like the simplicity of a guy... One of the guy, he has a daughter. You know the one that has... The guy, he has a daughter. And he makes her first bow and arrow, and then she kills her first squirrel or something like that. And it's like... You look at these people in the simplicity of the accomplishment, and they're so fucking happy. Yeah. And then you look at other people that have... everything, and they're so unhappy. You look at that, and you should learn. You go, man. What gets me is that people don't go, what's going on here?
What's the important thing? I cut a lot of people out of my life this year.
Absolutely.
I cut a lot of people that I was like, you know what? I don't have. These are people that I like commiserate in shit with. Yeah, they'll be like your catfish friends, friends that are like, oh yeah, come back on the bottom, where we'll just sit here and I'm like, these are the friends I don't, and I got rid of them, and I'm like, I just need people higher up toward the surface.
Here's something I'm gonna give you a old dude gem. Here's an old dude gem.
Okay, give it to me.
So I went through a period of time where I started to eliminate people from just people who don't enhance my life, right? And I was like, these are people that they're all succubus. They're black holes that just suck energy and make my life worse. So my philosophy is that like life is like this ox cart. In Monty Python when they bring out your dead, one of those ox cart. No. All right. Well, there's like picture an ox cart with these wooden wheels, and you have to carry these boulders, right? Okay. And so there's boulders that you have to carry. that you don't have a choice. You got to pay your taxes. You got to pay your rent. You might have a job that you hate doing that you go in to pay the rent or whatever. But there's boulders that you don't have to carry, that you carry because you feel obligated, because it martyrs you, because whatever the fuck it is you have. And those things take away, they wear your cart down. So the first thing I wanted to do was simplify my life, was to push all the boulders off of my life, off my cart, that I don't need. Mm-hmm. So if it's family members who are not productive in my life, gone. If it's friends, gone. If it's people that use me, gone. And the things that I have to deal with, going to an audition and having to deal with the rejection, is part of the process of getting to where I want to go. Those things I have to deal with, I carry those because I have to. But the things I don't carry are the things that I don't have to. Now, here's the other part of it. If somebody was neutral in my life and they didn't take anything away from my life, I would still keep them around because they didn't really, I didn't feel as though they really took away from my life. And now at 50, you realize that life is finite. Time is the most valuable resource. Mm-hmm. And so when somebody is not enhancing your life, mm-hmm. they're still a negative to your life because they're taking time.
Sure.
And so now, even the people who haven't fucking fucked me over or whatever, I eliminate those people because they take my time. They use my time.
I understand.
That I could use that time for productive and people and guys like you in my life who I should be around more, speak to more.
We should hang out more.
We'll do that. And we'll do that. And we will do that. But to eliminate the people that don't enhance my life. Mm-hmm. And just because you're neutral, you don't get a place. You don't get a place in my life.
You need value.
You need value because I give you everything about me gives you value.
Right. You want players on the team that are going to.
You're going to put some points up.
To put
and if you ain't got points up, I want an assist. If you ain't got an assist, then I want a fucking rebound. Mm. I want something. And that was, that's my old dude shit. Justin, thank you, brother, for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
And I want you back on. I want you back on more often. Yeah. I want you to come and fucking hang out. Please, whenever you want, just call me. Just really,
Definitely.
really. Anything you want to plug?
I got a podcast called Neurotica.
I did your podcast.
No, you did my other one. We don't do that one. I did Neurotica. It is a sex and anxiety podcast.
Wow.
It's me and Tracy Carnazzo. We talk about OCD, anxiety, all this sexual stuff. It's available anywhere you can get podcasts, so please check out Neurotica Pod. Also, all my social media is at IamJustinSilver, and it's IamJustinSilver.com. I got a bunch of show dates. I'm with Dan Soder this weekend. I'm with Dave Attell throughout the month. So
awesome.
Check that shit out, man. Thanks.
Both
show
great guys, too. Check them out. Dave Attell, sweetheart. Dan Soder, man love. Shout out, man love. Every time I hug him, I go, man love. So, thank you so much, bro. Harry, talk to me.
You can go to my website, ihatecomedy.com. I'm going to update that. It's going to get a makeover soon. You're going to see all my stuff there. You can find me through there. And I'm still doing color commentary on Capital Wrestling. Having a great time doing that.
Yeah, so. You're really good at that.
Yeah.
You're really fucking good at that.
Thanks, man. Check all the episodes out on YouTube, and we're doing a live show February 10th, Saturday night, Hoboken. Come out.
Okay. Also, all my stuff, Dante Nero, Instagram, Dante Nero Comedian. Also, I apologize, it's January, it's after January, and I said that the store would be up with the T-shirts. I'm still working on it. I'm working on a guy who's going to print my stuff and whatnot, and that'll be up. I'm going to definitely try and get that before February. Don't forget the one-on-one consultations, man. I'm loving doing it, too. I've always loved helping people, but this is really, I feel like I've really been helping people out with that. I mean, just really, and I'm learning more about myself. So if you got a problem, man, you just call me, man. We'll talk it out. We'll figure it out. I'll give you some of this old guy wisdom. GYBB, get your balls back. Be a better bitch. WWDD, what would Dante do? The sexual revolution is being podcasted. I love y'all. Tell a friend. Don't be selfish. Make it pop. All right? I love y'all, man. We out.